With the 2025 season upon us, nothing moves faster than the league 24/7 headlines, always something new each week, no matter how crazy or shocking. After a couple days, when something officially gets announced, we talk about it for a bit, then move right on to the next topic. Right in the start of July, a few days into free agency, former four-time All-Star Kemba Walker announced his retirement from basketball. The 34-year-old lasted just a dozen seasons in the league before his knees had enough. From starting All-Star point guard just 4 years ago to a rapid decline. Many of you watching this might have already forgotten about Kemba. Another former great, Blake Griffin, just a couple months back announced his retirement in April. From high-flying superstar, MVP candidate in his prime, to severe knee problems. Gave every ounce of his all-star self in Detroit, only to be damaged goods by the time he joined the contending Nets and Celtics. One of the greats robbed from reaching his full potential. While NBA champions Al Horford and Kyle Lowry likely will play one more year, Big Al can enjoy a nice long retirement tour, having zero pressure as a long-awaited NBA champ. Lowry, on the other hand, still has a bit left in the tank, can possibly play till 40, two future Hall of Famers. While many of you did not know, DeAndre Jordan, officially the Udonis Haslem of the NBA, wasted no time. First day of free agency, signed 1 year $3.6 million, returning to the Nuggets, 7 years removed from his only All-Star selection. Many of these former All-Stars, unfortunately, will never get a proper NBA farewell. Some will forever feel disrespected, being left behind and forgotten. If it wasn't for their injuries, would have been Hall of Famers, but most of the players on this list won't even get that honor, leaving them with no true retirement speech. Starting with 38-year-old Dwight Howard, who will get a retirement speech, can still get rebounds and play 15 minutes a night, but his attitude and antics continues to rub many the wrong way. From all-time great potential, a top 5 player in his prime, MVP candidate, and the best defensive player at his peak we've seen in the last 15 years, being super disrespected to the point cost himself a spot at the NBA top 75 list. While guys like Ann Davis and Dame Lillard made it above him, D12 will need to wait 23 more years to find out whether he's even good enough to make the top 100 list. At least one thing's certain: his Hall of Fame speech be fascinating for sure in a few years, likely the next time Howard will be associated with the NBA. From the massive off-court distractions, the last thing any older player needs, already with a bad teammate reputation, to put himself in headlines with serious allegations. Whether they're true or not, every incident that happened since his hostile time leaving with Orlando all factor in to many wanting to avoid him altogether. Matter of fact, after the whole Wizards debacle, nobody would have been shocked to see him completely out the league before 2020, but being on his best behavior with the Lakers, accepted his role as the perfect backup 5, contributed to winning basketball, reminded the whole world what he was still capable of, earned the title, being a huge piece in the bubble, most notable for guarding Jokic and reminding the Lakers how badly they miss having a real center, banging with other big bodies. A full circle moment. Howard later bounced around with Philly back to Los Angeles, part of the 2022 Circus team, took his talents to Taiwan, then became a full-time Twitter complainer, begging for more chances, until one day he'll finally realize those chances long over. As of now, Howard much better off preparing for his Hall of Fame speech. Hopefully, he won't be begging for more chances at this point and finally come to realize he's had a great career. Gordon Hayward most recently played for the OKC Thunder. The now 34-year-old might truly not get signed again, especially being buried deep on the bench. Played a grand total of 46 minutes, 7 playoff games, scored 0 points, 3 shot attempts. The devastating ankle injury aged his play by a good 4 or 5 years, having his prime years ruined, a shell of himself since. The one-time All-Star spent 3.5 seasons with the dysfunctional Charlotte Hornets. 3.5 years too long. By the time he was traded to the Thunder, already damaged goods. Won't be a Hall of Famer, a great player, arguably in the top 20 discussion back in 2017. One excellent year in Utah, then bailed immediately in free agency, already forgotten a few months later after the brilliance of rookie Donovan Mitchell. Then coming back from injury, the much younger Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum surpassed him as a player in Boston when Gordon and Kyrie were supposed to be the main guys, now considered an afterthought with the Celtics. If Hayward decided to stay in Salt Lake and team drafted Mitchell, the Jazz could have gotten deeper, possibly contend for a title, being the missing piece. now on the trend being forgotten as a good player, more memorable for his Butler days, nearly banking the half-court dagger in the national title game than anything he's done in the NBA. From being on bad Utah teams to finally getting good in 2017 to reuniting with head coach Brad Stevens, Hayward waited longer than expected to publish on the Players Tribune post, needing a few extra days to finish his anticipated blog, despite still averaging 14.5 points with the stinking Hornets, failing to make any impact with OKC. A vet minimum still a possibility, but nowadays seems too washed and injury prone. 3 years from now, many won't even remember Hayward being on OKC's roster at any point. Couldn't be reliable enough as a spot-up shooter, plays best with the ball in his hands. Instead, played hot potato every time he caught the ball. Sam Presti's decision wanting him made zero sense, from leaving one of the bottom tier franchise to putting up empty stats to risking it all, badly exposed on a great team. Gordon Hayward could have one of the saddest, unpleasant exits to say farewell to his NBA career. Victor Oladipo, a current free agent, one of the saddest downfalls. Just like Hayward, Vic's injuries didn't look as grueling, but the effects on his body even worse. As he was about to round out his all-around game, the two-time All-Star and former most improved player never reached his full potential, peaked by 25, only went downhill from there. From finally emerging and living up to his number 2 pick status with Indiana, the former 23-point scorer with suffocating defense, everything changed. January 23, 2019, suffered a ruptured quad tendon versus the Raptors, made his return on the NBA floor 371 days after, worked his way up, looking to put his injuries behind him, averaged a lackluster 14.5 points the 2020 season. Indy looked worse with him, still being a playoff caliber squad. Vic elected to not play in the bubble before weirdly changing his mind. Later became super obvious he no longer wanted to Bindi, swept out the first round to the Miami Heat, barely tried that series. Pacers would have likely been better off without him in the bubble to begin with. Indy fans felt the poor body language from acting extra friendly to the Heat players. The real ones knew he was gone sooner than later. Tons of rumors and speculations led to one of the biggest absolute travesty decisions in NBA history. Turned down 4 years, $112 million extension. Since the bubble, the former IU superstar played a total 83 regular season games in 4 possible seasons, would have been collecting more than $1 million per game. Many knowing it was ridiculous he got such an offer to deal with, knowing he's already a shell of himself, the Pacers absolutely dodged the bullet. Oladipo traded to Houston, even rejected 2 years $45 million, only 20 games played in H-Town, got his wish, traded to Miami, but after another quad injury, needing surgery, played 4 games for the Heat, signed for the minimum later, leaving millions on the table, returned back to the hardwood 11 months later, 8 total regular season games 2022, 15 playoff games played, still proven to be a good role player, but regressed heavily offensively, couldn't shoot, did his best work on defense, then signed for 2 years just $16 million, still only 30 years old at the time, but those injuries absolutely aged him by about a decade. 42 more regular season games off the bench, back for Game 2 first round Milwaukee series, just 2 playoff games, suffered a non-contact tore patellar tendon, a devastating career blow. Miami, led by Jimmy Butler, still managed to make the finals, falling to the much better Denver Nuggets team in 5. Had Oladipo been available to guard Jamal Murray, series would have been way closer. Undergoing his 3rd major knee surgery in 4 years, that moment right there could have literally been Oladipo's final possession in the NBA. Miami moved on from his services, traded to OKC for 2nd round picks, then shifted back to Houston, and then later Memphis before getting waived, careered $126 million in earnings, might be forced to make his retirement decision anytime late 2024 or early 25. Derrick Rose of the Memphis Grizzlies, under contract for another season, still hasn't made his official plan whether to return for a 17th season. The rehabs and magnitude of injuries robbed him of all-time greatness, played just 24 games a season ago with all sorts of injuries, never played a stretch of more than 5 consecutive games, even with all the massive injuries the team suffered all of last season. Rose still wasn't healthy enough to log heavy minutes, but when given the chance, more of a deep in the bench locker room presence. Despite the countless hours trying to get his body right, the soon-to-be 36-year-old, his most memorable moment last season, having a fake Woj Twitter account, fooled the Bulls announcers on his fake retirement.
Adrian Woj announced reporting that Derrick Rose is retiring after 15 seasons.
How about that?
To logging just 77 games combined last 3 seasons, Derrick Rose's career likely over anytime within the next 11 months. DeMarcus Cousins. Both him and Dwight Howard talked about the best center back in 2015. Both brutal endings, believe they're blacklisted from the league. Cousins spent way too much time in Sacramento, put up empty stats, made 4 All-Star teams, played his best ball with New Orleans until that devastating Achilles injury in 2018. Forever known for his bad attitude, especially during the early part of his career, painted an irreparable reputation. His final games in the league, known as Jokic's backup, playing against his former team Golden State, DeMarcus took a massive pay cut trying to chase a ring, to his superstar teammates getting hurt the 2019 finals, to losing to his former team that got another ring without him, and then the Nuggets winning the championship right after Cousins' departure. Talk about multiple streaks of bad luck after bad luck. Isaiah Thomas played for 10 different teams, 6 games with Phoenix, got to be around KD, Book, and Beal for a bit. After unsigned all of 2023, ever since his superstar 2017 campaign, 7 years has gone by. Thomas played 115 total NBA games since, averages of 11 points, under 39% from the field, lost most of his quickness with the bad hip. From never getting that max contract, it's an absolute travesty. Many players who's not even half as good as Thomas will make over $200 million in career earnings. While Tobias' absolute travesty Harris made nearly $40 million all of last season to put up 0 effing points in an elimination game and still got 2 years 52 to play for the awful Pistons. That's more than Thomas's entire NBA tenure. From Denver, Washington, New Orleans, Los Angeles, to Dallas, even Charlotte and Phoenix took a chance on the undersized Thomas. Come 2025, if Thomas gets another shot at the league, we'll be getting DeAndre Jordan caliber minutes. But if he goes unsigned all of next season, the only other possibility, he'll get another NBA contract when the league announces its expansion team in a year or 2 and the Seattle Supersonics sign Thomas as a final tribute to the Washington native. While Russ Westbrook remains unsigned, very likely he'll get a contract before the end of summer given his impeccable energy, just now super unplayable in certain moments, but definitely still tremendous value here and there. A couple former non-All-Stars but good players throughout their careers like Wesley Matthews, Danny Green, and Thad Young might have all played their final NBA games due to Father Time, while Danilo Gallinari just recently had a knee injury for Team Italy. The Olympic qualifiers will probably get one more vet minimum deal, made over $200 million, not bad for the soon-to-be 36-year-old. How many of these former All-Stars will actually get one last chance finish off their careers by the middle of next season? Many will start wondering what happened to some of these names. In the business of the NBA, it's not always going to be sunshines and rainbows, especially when you age.